Hi there, my name is Ron Rogers, and this presentation is titled Raccoons. And this deals with a program developed by Dr. James Van Allen of the University of Iowa. The picture there on the right shows the scientific payload, that cylinder there with a point attached to a Loci rocket. They used in this program two different types of rockets. They used the Loci and a Deacon rocket. The way this operated was they took these rockets and the instrumentation package up to about 70,000 feet on a balloon and then fired it. Rocket is the rocket part of the raccoons, and the oons part is the balloon part. So they put the two words together. And Dr. James Van Allen was very young in this picture. What you see on the left side, I worked for Dr. Van Allen in a number of capacities. And when I was an operator of the Engine 5 satellite, and I have a program talking about the various University of Iowa satellites that were launched, 6 of them in all. While I was an operator for that, I was in a storeroom looking for I don't remember what, but I came across a bunch of these crates with these packages in. And I went up and I asked Dr. Van Allen, what are these? And so he started to tell me the story about the raccoons. And of course, with Google now, you can look this up, which is where I've got a lot of the later material. But they had a good 30 of those sitting there. And I asked him what they're going to do with them. And he said he really didn't know. And I said, well, I think they're really interesting. And I love stuff like that. And I said, could I have, a couple of them? And he goes, sure. So the two there depict the two basic different designs of the vehicle. And the way these work was very interesting. They being carried up on a balloon in the University of Iowa is in Iowa City, Iowa, where I grew up. And the deal was they couldn't just launch out of Iowa, balloon to 70,000 feet, fire these things, and have them come down in some farmer's house from 100,000 feet. That wasn't good. So they went up over the North Sea, and the very first launch occurred on July 1st, 1955, shipboard off the coast of Greenland, an icebreaker that he arranged to be able to launch these off of. And it's kind of interesting. There were also several boxes of little square aluminum boxes with 2 timers in them. These were essentially kitchen timers, nothing really too much more fancy than that. And the deal was you set the timers, and they figured how long it would take the balloons to get up to 70,000 feet, and then when the timer went off, the rocket fired. Well, the first several times they tried to do this, the rockets didn't fire, and they figured that the timers, due to the cold temperature, were freezing up and preventing it from firing. So Dr. Van Allen took and heated up some cans of tomato juice, put them in the box, sealed it up, and it kept them warm enough that they subsequently fired. Okay, talk about ingenuity. And the interesting thing about this whole thing was I was walking with Dr. Van Allen one time. We're going out to lunch at a restaurant. We were walking, and he says, my degree wasn't in space physics. And I go, really? Because he's a predominant space physicist. And he goes, well, space physics didn't exist at the time. He got his degree in nuclear physics, which is closely related because you're dealing with particles and that. But there wasn't space physics. It didn't exist back in the 30s. So he got his degree in nuclear physics. And the neat thing about Dr. James Van Allen, he has just an absolutely amazing career. But he was just the nicest and easiest guy to talk to. And I had several nice chats with him up in his 7th floor physics building office. He had a corner office up there, and this isn't for the windows or anything. It was for the storage. The corner offices were the biggest. They'd put like 10 graduate students in there. Well, he had this whole place to himself, and it was just full of documents and that. It was just a really cool office, and his main office, the formal office, being head of the physics department, was on the 2nd floor, but he spent most of his time up in that 7th floor office. Now, I want to talk just a little bit about these raccoons and parts of them. Now, one of the things he did in World War II is he developed an ability to harden vacuum tubes. He developed proximity fuses for artillery shells. So as you can imagine, and you didn't have transistors back then, so you had to use vacuum tubes, and they had to be hardened. So the yellow part here, just out of interest, was vacuum tubes that were used in these. These were made in the late 40s into the 50s. These things were built, and the yellow points to a vacuum tube. There's a little piece of phenolic that's held by the screws and the bolts there, so it wouldn't come out of the socket during the firing. The green arrow points to a photo tube that was used to determine if the rocket was spinning. And the blue arrow there, this is what's kind of cool. That points to a little weight, and in the center, that little brown thing, that's a little light switch like you'd go to the hardware store, which is, I'm sure, where they got it from, because that is a hardware store type of switch. And when the rocket motor fired, of course, the acceleration would turn the weight down. It would turn on the electronics. The tubes would have to warm up for a few seconds, and then you'd start collecting data. Now here's a picture of one of the balloons with the raccoon being carried up to altitude. And on the right, Dr. James Van Allen there is in the center with Wernher von Braun next to him there. That's the Explorer 1. That's the one that really discovered the Van Allen radiation belts, which is depicted here, and with the various dimensions in that. The Explorer 1 and, of course, all the subsequent INGEN satellites were used to explore the Van Allen radiation belts and essentially map them out. Now here's the raccoons, the top parts. There were a couple types. The blue arrows point to the Geiger tubes. Now most people refer to these as Geiger tubes. You never want to be the second guy named on any project, because Mueller was the second guy and everybody forgets about him. So these are correctly known as Geiger-Mueller tubes, but of course people have forgotten about him. Now, on the one above the left, above that is a scintillation detector. And you notice on the right how the tubes are offset. This was an attempt to make somewhat of a telescope, as you will, because crudely you could determine how the vehicle was spinning, and then if you had a coincidence of a particle going through both of those, you could possibly determine, hey, it was coming from a certain area. This is back when they knew, virtually nothing about particles, electrons, protons, cosmic rays, all that stuff at high altitude. Here's a couple other interesting parts. On the left with the blue arrow is a instrumentation package that's sealed in foam there to protect it. You notice those two white things under there. Those are potentiometers that you could set. And on the right-hand picture with the yellow arrow, those were holders of batteries. They had just standard batteries that you would put in there, and these are what powered the instrumentation from for the short life of the vehicle. And this is a picture of Dr. James Van Allen. He passed away in 2006, and as you can see with the blue arrow in the background, those are a couple of the raccoons. I don't know what happened to the later raccoons. I don't know if they're still in a storage room somewhere. The storage room now is an office. I went back there recently and saw that it had turned into kind of an electronic technician's office, and the storeroom had moved. And so, of course, at this time, the physics building doubled in size, so I'm sure they probably found another storage room for the raccoons, if they still even have them there or if they'd been dispersed. But I was very fortunate to get these. I attained these back in the late 60s to early 70s. So I've had these for a very long time, and they've been through quite a few moves. But anyway, that is a very brief story of the raccoons, the devices that preceded the Explorer 1, which really started to map out the Van Allen radiation belts, and of course then the INGEN satellite series that I'll talk about in a later presentation. So thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it.